Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Happy Kwaai Day. This is the 50th Kwaai Day that we've had, the 50th weekly public meeting on July 12, 2024. We actually started the weekly public meetings on July 28th last year, so we'll celebrate that as well. But this is the 50. 50 is a great milestone. My name's Reza Rassool. I'm chairman and CEO of Kwaai. This is a movement that I started when I retired from being CTO at Real Networks. We're glad to have so many participants. I just looked at Salesforce this morning. We're at 544 members, and the movement's growing rapidly. And you know, there are lots of ways of growing the movement. We're starting to find other non-profit entities, other open source entities that have missions that are aligned with ours. And so getting closer to them. And this is the beauty of the non-profit world. You know, in the for-profit world, that sort of action of getting close and aligning with other entities you'd have the angst about the competitive threat and so on. Here in the non-profit world, we can, if we find an organization that is aligned with us, there's nothing stopping us from collaborating and forming partnerships. Okay, so we have a great agenda, but I'm going to hand over to Debbie. Debbie, why don't you talk us through it?
All right, everybody, welcome. Like Reza said, this is meeting 50, so congratulations. And today we have for our lightning talk, Mr. Michael Glavick, who's going to, hopefully I said that correctly.
Close enough.
Close enough, okay. Thank you. And he's going to talk to us, I believe, about Project AI 2030, which is very interesting. I'm very excited to hear about this. And of course, we're going to have our updates from our entire crew, how our front end is going, the pAI-OS backend from Sam, the beta program. There's just a lot of updates from this week. And then if you're a new member, please, please, please raise your hand at the end. We'll give you a cue and just tell us a little bit about yourselves. We want to hear from all the new members. Don't be shy. And without further ado, back to Reza.
Okay, so let me introduce Michael. Michael and I met for the first time in Chicago. I was at a conference, the Chicago AI Week conference. Lots of speakers. I was only there for a day, and I got a speaking slot, and I appreciate that. But very quickly, when Michael and I just had a 5-minute conversation, instantly I think we figured out that we were strongly aligned. And so Michael's going to tell you about his background and tell you about the mission of AI 2030 as well. Okay, over to you, Michael.
Okay, thank you for inviting me, Reza. We met, as you were saying, a couple of weeks ago at the AI 2030 Web3 conference, and I completely agree with you. We bonded as kindred spirits in innovation and emerging technologies. So currently, I lead growth for AI 2030. I have focused much of my career at the leading edges of new technologies, working with global thought leaders early in my career with people like Clayton Christensen and Tom Davenport, and then onward with Don Tapscott, who I still work with at the Blockchain Research Institute, and of course, Xiaochen Zhang, who is the CEO and founder of AI 2030. And not just men. Thought leaders as well, like Tammy Erickson and Linda Grattan, which prompted me to help create our Women in AI program, which has become very powerful for us. We've had probably about 150 new members coming in for women in our AI program. But enough about that. Let me talk about you know, what we're doing here. 6-7 years ago, blockchain was the tech media darling, slowed by problems with cryptocurrencies and COVID, those kinds of things. Today, however, everyone's focus is on AI. But the elephant in the room with AI is responsible AI, ethical AI, and the problems that are associated with that kind of a program. If you think about it, every industry and every enterprise in every industry will leverage AI. But more than just industry and enterprise, it will be an important element of every company. And so what do I mean by that? Think about what makes up an enterprise. It's strategy, it's operations, it's supply chain, it's marketing, it's sales, it's products, it's human resources. Every element will have AI and responsible AI support. If there's a glitch, if it's more than a problem, if it's a hallucination, that's a real problem, and everyone is involved. Both our organizations, Kwaai and AI 2030, have a focus on responsible AI for our membership. Our purpose, put simply, is to help create a better world. And I don't think that there's a better purpose than that. Both our organizations have offerings that include advisory services, research, events, articles, training, and products, like our trusted AI engine advanced toolkit for assessments and monitoring and enhancements, and of course, membership. So I'm going to do a quick quiz for the group. Of those 7 areas that I just mentioned, which do you think will be the most important source of growth for our kind of organizations? Anybody? Nobody wants to say. For most of the things, and I would have said 3 years ago, I would have said that events were the most important funding capability for our type of organization, but that's not the case anymore. I believe that the most important growth area for our kind of not-for-profit and even for-profit organizations is membership. Because of this unique element in AI, it's even more important than usual, because people understand that AI, if managed properly and with responsible AI, will make this a better world. And that's what my focus is. That's why I'm doing this. But I'm not really here to talk about the now. I wanted to talk about the future of AI and its integration with emerging technologies. AI will become the managing technology enabler for the seamless integration of smart cities. I call them cognitive infrastructures. AI will be this managing enabling platform, and blockchain will be the base data platform. When you think about all the other emerging technologies like IoT and AR, VR and digital twins and robotic process automation and quantum computing, all of those technologies will be working elements coming together to create cognitive infrastructures. So right now, there are a number of these kind of smart cities around the world. NEOM is probably the one that's most known. NEOM, of course, is in Saudi Arabia, and it means new futures. China's got a whole series of them. They've got a whole blockchain services network. Shanghai is building one. European blockchain services are building a number of infrastructure projects. LACchain network in Latin America. So it's happening all around the world. These organizations are starting to create and develop these smart cities. But they're doing it in a very small level. What Saudi Arabia fessed up with when it came to NEOM was they felt that by the time they got NEOM up and running, it would be a $17 trillion enterprise. I doubt that it'll end up being that much, but it might be. Who knows? But how many of these developing projects are in the U.S.? Any ideas? Actually, there are no smart city projects going on in the United States that I'm aware of, and I'm in this market, so I haven't seen anybody come up and said we've got a smart city project happening here now. But there actually are dozens of what I'll call cognitive infrastructures. And by cognitive infrastructures, I'm talking about smart manufacturing, smart suburbs, medical infrastructures, agricultural infrastructure projects, even things like deep sea cooling and harvesting. The list goes on and on. There are just dozens of them. So there's just a glimpse of the future in emerging tech. But getting back to now. So both Kwaai and AI 2030 are all about responsible, ethical AI. But for the future, both of our organizations will want to have a foothold, and for AI 2030, it might be more of a focus on cognitive infrastructures and the evolution of smart cities. It is where AI and all of the other technologies, including blockchain, will be evolving to create a better world. So our two organizations are in a great leadership position to leverage AI, RAI, and emerging technologies to make this a better world. And that sets the stage for the two of us to develop relationships, joint initiatives, and potentially joint offerings. The challenge and the opportunity is just too big, too important to go at it alone. So I would suggest that we put our heads together and see where we might be resources for each other. So Reza and the rest of your group, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks so much, Michael. Wow. Okay, that's you're a visionary. You've painted a picture of a future that could be potentially uplifting for all of humanity. The notion that there's no smart city development in the US, that is disappointing. It's scary. I think that you know, the US with its sort of individualist streak is somewhat allergic to these big sort of centralized infrastructures. It's not to say that there isn't cognitive infrastructure being contemplated, but it's not, I don't think that sort of top down from a federal government all the way down managing it, or even at the state level. You're seeing maybe one or two development complexes that claim that they're going to be smart cities. I think there's one in Orange County that I was tangentially part of when I was at Real Networks. But this is very interesting. What was more inspiring is your recognition that, hey, there's stuff that we can do collaboratively, and I'm excited about that. I'd like to explore more about that. We are reaching out to other similar organizations. Here's what I recognized in AI 2030 that we don't have, where we are weak. I think your AI 2030 is very strong on policy and on your AI 2030 pledge is a fantastic initiative, and you've got a rich vein of very senior talent, executive level talent and membership. Where Kwaai is strong is we're a lab. That's how we framed ourselves, as a lab, not as a policy think tank. Yes, we do have a policy work group, but that is maybe about 5% of our energy. The majority of our energy is going into development. So I see some complementarity in what we're doing. We're all trying to head in the same direction, but we can leverage each other's strengths when we think about joint initiatives. So great. Thank you so much, Michael. And we really appreciate you coming to spend time with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions for Michael before we head on to the workgroup updates? If so, feel free to pop up your hands. In fact, you can do that at any time. I'm
getting a lot of clapping hands. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Okay. AZ, you've raised your hand.
Yes, Reza, were we going to act on shrinking meeting times with the main meeting as well, or are we sticking to the hour length of the meeting?
This meeting is going to stay an hour long, and the follow-on meeting is also going to, the after party is an hour long. It's the work group meetings that we're going to shrink to 30 minutes.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Nicole, your hand.
Go ahead.
Hi, Michael, awesome presentation, and I love your idea. Smart cities are such an innovative concept, and I share your disappointment for not having any in the US.
Yeah.
Though I hope that we get to catch up soon. I do have questions. I saw a lot of people were really interested in your Women in AI program, so I was just wondering, can you throw like a link or a plug in the chat for us? And also, as for your concept with the smart infrastructure, do you have kind of like an idea on where, in your opinion, the best place to start in the US would be?
In terms of a location or in terms of which technologies to begin moving?
Both are good questions.
I think
location is more what I was curious about.
Yeah, I think what's happening here is, as I said, that there were dozens of cognitive infrastructure sorts of things happening across all the different kinds of areas of this country. And I think what will happen is that they will continue to grow. They'll network. They'll connect up to other types of things that are going on. For instance, if you have a healthcare cognitive infrastructure set up, what'll happen is it'll span into doctors and nurses and places where people go when they have particular problems, and even senior people living facilities, those kinds of things. And they'll all sort of connect together, networked by the technologies that are there. So a smart city will begin to develop around these types of things. And that's how it will grow.
So it sounds like it's a pretty optimistic forecast, and we're not too far behind. We just need to connect what we already have as far as smart sections go, right?
That's the idea. That I'm one of those people that go, oh, well, this could work this way, and this could work this way. So
puzzle people are important right now. But thank you so much. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Sam, you got your hand up.
Yeah, so the good news is I've kind of lived and worked around the world, and there are places that do have at least the precursors to a smart city from a personal point of view. So like in New South Wales, Sydney, they've got Services New South Wales. Here in Vancouver, you've got like the Services BC set up. I happily haven't had to deal with that a lot yet. But where you have these kind of offices and call centers and things, you could imagine them being updated fairly quickly with AI-based smart city. Most of the smart city activity I've seen previously has been like parking meters and turning lights on and off and grids and this kind of stuff. Whereas like I want to update my fishing license, or I'm a single unemployed student, what can you do? What can you do for me? Or a single mother or whatever, what can you do for me? And this is all stuff that can be serviced by LLM. So maybe that's something that we can work on building and collaborating, and whether it's an assistant or even going into agents, could be quite interesting. Yeah, I see an interface maybe for your personal assistant informing a smart city, hey, I'm actually planning to come into town today. Now, but keeping that anonymous, sufficiently anonymized, it allows restaurants to know what level of staffing they're going to need. It allows the sort of logistics and infrastructure of the city to be properly planned. In the UK, when the rail system got privatized, the quality dropped dramatically. But the one thing that they did was they provided a price tiering system where if you were to buy the ticket in advance, a day in advance, then you got a dramatic discount, because for basically staging all and provisioning all of the assets within a massive public transport system, advanced knowledge is really valuable. And so that, I think, especially in a post-pandemic world where we've got insufficient foot traffic in cities to sustain the sort of mom and pop shops that are there and all the other infrastructure, advanced knowledge is useful. And we could find a way of our personal assistant actually providing that advanced knowledge sufficiently anonymized. Okay, well, yes. Great topics for further conversations. Let's move forward to the work group update. I'm gonna briefly share, just to give everyone seen this diagram, not the diagram, the presentation many times before. This is our proof of concept of our personal assistant. This is the front end, and this is what we developed in Q1 for our Kwaai Summit. This personal assistant has been evolving, and our goal is to get it to the beta release, which should be in, let's say, a few weeks from now. There was an encouraging presentation. What we're going to do now is just give a quick update on the front end. So Balaji, why don't you spend a few minutes talking about the front end, and then Sam a few minutes talking about the OS.
Absolutely. Thanks, Reza. This week, the work group met on the Pi Assistant, furthering development towards the beta program for education institutions. We definitely have much more clearer, and we firmed up the UI mockups, and now we are moving towards the API implementation. In discussion with the OS group, we kind of finalized some of the interfaces that need to operate with the OS layer to get the work done. So that document has been reviewed and it's getting finalized. So next week we'll bring that up, and we'll hopefully start implementing some of those API calls. And that's the update from the pAI assistant side for the beta program.
Yeah,
Thanks,
on our side for the OS, so the idea is to build a personal artificial intelligence operating system, so pAI-OS, and that is in the pAI-OS repo on GitHub. The development has been a bit slower than the previous weeks due to Canada Day and Independence Day and a wedding and various other bits and pieces, but also because we've been nutting out kind of what services does the operating system provide? Like, what does an app look like? We know when you've got Windows and you install an app, it's quite clear what that is. But we need to, and we're just discussing this yesterday, to support use cases where somebody can come in and quite easily set up pAI-OS and get something useful, you know, with an LLM, maybe some RAG, like here's a folder of my documents. I want to be able to ask you and talk to my PDFs kind of thing out of the box. But we also need to be able to support fairly advanced use cases. But we don't only want to do advanced use cases, because somebody who's in an advanced use case can just go and like download and install all the different components themselves and wire them up. So really the largest opportunity for us, both in terms of, you know, size of the market, number of people we can impact and help, but also, you know, where we're needed is in the less capable users, whatever platform they're on, Windows, Linux, Mac OS. We're targeting, we're supporting all three of those at least. So we're making good progress on kind of what is an app, like can we support multiple environments or stacks? What are the kind of dependencies that you need, like what we call abilities? And then in other operating systems, like everything's kind of a package. Like in Windows, you might be installing Firefox, or you might be installing Visual C runtimes. In Linux, you know, you might be installing a package which is a full desktop environment, or just a library that does SSL, right? OpenSSL or something like that. Whereas we're working out whether it is a case of everything is a package or an ability or whatever we call it, or whether there's this kind of more softer, like here's an environment, or I don't want to say container, but you know, here's an area where all of the different bits that you've got in your kind of stack. And where we were going with that was like recipes. And so we're kind of, you know, recipes, blueprints, like I've got a recipe for a virtual assistant. I've got a recipe for an assistant that third parties can use, right? So kind of the assistant, like helper, my virtual assistant that books restaurants, versus people coming and wanting to book time with me or ask me about when the assignment's due or whatever. And then agents to go out and do like travel agents and, you know, find a car for me and this kind of stuff. So good progress there. The one thing that I'm actively working on today, which is kind of a precursor to other people getting involved, there's a half a dozen PRs from Marco in particular that I want to get in, is the security and particularly the signatures going all the way back for all commits, all the way back to the Genesis. Now, almost all of those commits so far, bar two, are mine. And a lot of the recent ones when I moved to Windows are unsigned. So I need to go back and basically rebase and re-sign everything. And that will give us all of that chain of security all back to the Genesis. And then we'll put protection on the branches so that you need to sign your commits for them to be included in the code base. I think I might have used another minute, so sorry about that. Let's get back on.
No problem. Okay, thanks.
All right, I'll give it back to you.
Look, Sam. Before you go, I mean, the point you made that most of the commits are yours. This is a shout out to anyone that wants to contribute to the pAI-OS. This is a key fundamental core technology of Kwaai. Reach out to Sam. You'll find him on Slack. And figure out how you can contribute. Okay.
The reason I say that, Reza, is because the only reason I can rebase everything and sign everything is because they are mine. If there were a whole bunch of other commits, like it would be difficult or impossible to actually do that. So,
okay, fortuitous. Going forward, we want more people at the coalface. Okay, thanks so much. I'm gonna switch now and give a quick update on the beta program. As you know, all of this development on the front end and on the OS is steering towards the beta. What is the beta? Well, it's going to be a closed beta. It is going to run in academia. And I put this web page up about a month ago, and we've already got 14 academic institutes that have signed up. And there's going to be a press release going out next week, and Garth and I are working on that, but we're going to have a lot more interest in this. And so the beta is going to run. It's a closed beta. We're going to ask colleges to host it. We're aiming for 20 to 30 colleges. I think 30 is a good number. They're going to be running 3 different use cases of the personal assistant. The Lumi use case, which is basically an FAQ. You can imagine this being the administration's support bot, a chat bot for the admin, where it's loaded up with all of its policy documents, the student handbook, the codes of conduct, and the sort of standard procedures. All of those sort of CYA documents that you signed that you said you were going to abide by, but now you have it in a form where you can actually talk to the documents. The main theme is being able to have a conversation with knowledge. And this isn't general knowledge, this is curated local knowledge. The middle use case is where the knowledge base is a collection of writing. So a celebrity professor at a college, in this case, Bruce Schneier, asked us to create a bot based on all of his writing. So 14 textbooks and a number of essays. The third use case is to help professors. It is the virtual teacher's assistant. It is a student-facing chatbot experience, but loaded up by the professor. So that alleviates the need to answer emails at 9, 10, 11 o'clock for information that's readily available in the course curriculum that's already been published. So don't talk to the hand. Talk to Penny here. Penny, who's the chatbot, and we're asking the colleges to host the back end, and so they would set up. Here is an example compute infrastructure that's needed in order to support the back end. And this is you can go buy one of these at Costco for like $2,000 or less. It's a very high-end gaming laptop. It's the deep learning AMI from Amazon. Also supports that. It will be hefty enough to support but many colleges don't have the ability to put this up, either the budget to run it in AWS or have the infrastructure internally. Actually, Cornell, who have already started, they're in pre-beta at the moment. They said, "Yeah, we've got ample compute resource. We'll light this up," and within an hour they had it up and running. So for those colleges that don't have the resource, I'm really pleased to say that we're in discussion with SwissVault and iBridge Cloud, who want to partner with us to underwrite the infrastructure for the beta. So this is really great. We're going to have a meeting this afternoon, and these folks, their heart's in the right place, and they're very interested in participating in this process, in this initiative, so that they will provide that the compute and the storage needs for those colleges that don't have it themselves. Okay, so now I'm gonna stop presenting. Maybe Debbie, you'll take over, and we'll move on to the next slot in the agenda. And I've forgotten what that is. I think it's a research update.
Can you hear me? Yes. So I don't know who's going to give this research.
I think Daryle is ready to go with an update on Mamba. Daryle, who's last on the list.
Daryle, anyone?
And look, any of you, Brian,
okay,
Brian, or Shad or Daryle, if you want to put your hands up, off you go. But Daryle, let's give you co-host privilege if you want to share your screen as well.
Awesome.
There we go. Add as co-host. Great.
Yeah.
So sorry, Daryle. This is a public meeting. People don't know what you've been working on. So describe it from a top level.
Okay. So in a nutshell, I and a group of 2 other people, we've been doing research on a neural network architecture, a language model architecture called Mamba. That's M-A-M-B-A, not Mamba. I keep Mambo or Mamba. It's Mamba, M-A-M-B-A. So it's a language model architecture that is more efficient than supposedly, well, allegedly, oh, I confirmed it, but it's more efficient than to transformer-based architecture. So these are architectures that that power ChatGPT, Llama 2, all these other popular language models that's being used. It's Mamba, yeah. So I've been doing research on the architecture, trying to understand the capabilities of the architecture and its processing efficiency, so we can explore the possibility of developing a lightweight version of the language model for use in the pAI-OS. So over the past few weeks, I've been doing some performance benchmarks on the capabilities of the Mamba model. I'll go ahead and share my slide screen so you can see what I have so far. Hopefully I shared the right screen, not the wrong one. Okay, cool. It's the right screen. Okay, cool. So what you're looking at right now is a downstream benchmark of Mamba and Mamba 2, which is a more recent implementation of Mamba that was released this year on several different benchmarks, popular benchmarks that test the reasoning, the common sense capabilities of different language models. So what you look, I'm going to see, I explain what's some of these things here. So perplexity. So we're evaluating the Mamba model against several different evaluation data sets, and you'll see several different measures here. So this measurement here, perplexity, is a very popular metric that measures the ability, how well a language model can actually generate text. So the way a language model works is it's actually predicting, based on a sequence of text that it's seen before, it's trying to predict the next word. So the perplexity is a measurement that measures how well the language model is able to predict the next word in a sequence, and how coherent that next word is with the other text that came before it. So the lower that number is, the better the language model is able to do that. So you can see that perplexity is performs really well for both versions of Mamba compared to different models of the same size. And then what you see here, the other data sets, is basically the common sense reasoning. So how accurate is able to actually reason against certain questions that are included in the data set, certain factoids and little quizzes that it was asked to perform. So you'll see also here that both versions of Mamba performed really well compared to models of the same size. So this is just the smallest version of the language model, which is 124 million parameters. If I look at other larger versions of Mamba compared to other models of the same size, you'll also notice that they performed pretty well. Outperformed the other language models of the same size, transformer-based models. Go all the way up to the largest one we have, is just 2.8 billion parameters. So that was a benchmark that I performed. So another benchmark that I performed was a speed test. So this is where I spun up a NVIDIA GPU, and I got a decently large sequence text, and I tested how fast several language models were able to generate text of varying lengths. So this is where I give it, I'll input a short sequence of text into the language models, and I'll ask it to generate text of varying lengths. So what you can see here, just by varying the number of input tokens, so these input tokens are the number of the number of words or subwords that I give to a language model, and asking it to generate increasingly larger sequences of text. You can see that in each scenario, Mamba actually, the performance of Mamba it's fast, actually surprisingly fast compared to the other language models. Like it was a huge difference when I ran it.
And it looks like a linear growth, right?
A linear growth compared to like a quadratic growth with the other language models.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So not only more accurate, but faster as well. This plays into exactly what we want to do, bringing AI down to earth, having it run locally. Okay. So Daryle, is it ready for prime time? Is it how far out do you think we are from being able to use Mamba based models within pAI?
Yeah. So the next thing I want to do is we're going to do another benchmark on how well Mamba is able to extract information from long sequences of the text. So I have one of the other people I'm working with, Chiron. He's performing a needle in a haystack benchmark. So he's going to take huge sequences, huge pieces of text, and we're going to insert some fact in it, and we're going to see how well Mamba was able to actually extract information from there. And then I have another person who's going to look into a Mamba implementation that works on graph data. Graph Mamba. So we're gonna get graph database. Data has been something that I've noticed there's been an interest. So yeah, I thought it'd be appropriate to look at a graph version of Mamba to see how well what we can use it for.
And that's what Shad's working on, GraphRag. He doesn't have an update today, but thanks so much. So, you know, Kwaai is not only developing code, we're doing research, and we're drafting policy. So it's about 80% of our development is on code, maybe the rest shared between research and policy. But I'm really glad that the research threads are moving along well. Why don't you get us back on track, Debbie?
All right, so it's that time of the meeting for new voices. So if you don't raise your hand, Reza's going to come.
And some sort of seasoned voices as well. Maybe reflecting on, hey, this is our 50th meeting. There's some folks that have been along all for the entire ride. I was just looking, if you go to the Kwaai website and you go and look at the events page, scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see the first few, the first meetings, and we've got the list of all the 50 meetings there, but the first few, I see Sam was, I think, in meeting number 3, and Balaji, you got your hand up.
Hey, I just had a question for Daryle. I'm definitely a fan of some of the newer architectures, but I have a key question with Mamba, specifically when you showed the graph of a linear graph over number of token size increase. One of the things I understand Mamba does is it doesn't have a direct correlation of every word to every word that came before it, like the other GPT models, which is interesting, right? It compresses that knowledge to create that linear graph. My question to you is, how do you actually evaluate such a thing? Because it doesn't have the same type of relationship with every previous word that came with it in other GPT models. How do you test that thing? The linear graph is impressive, but how do you test how it compresses that 1,000 tokens to come up with the next token is accurate enough?
That's a good question. I believe that's covered with so I'm going to make sure I restate your question so I make sure I'm answering it. So your question is, how do you, because it's the Mamba architecture is not using a attention mechanism. It's using it's compressing the words in a vector, in a compressed representation. Your question is, how do we test whether and how well Mamba is generating that text?
Yes, it's not a lossless compression. It is a lossy compression. Yeah. It is so the question here is, yes, it gives you the performance or the velocity, but how much are we sacrificing to get that?
Right.
Yeah. So can I maybe just answer that in the way that, did Doc mention this last week? He said the way that human memory works is we don't recall things verbatim. We don't recall verbatim what another person said to us word for word, but we've somehow remembered the meaning of it. And so I think this, the way it's looking at that attention window, it's it's creating a semantic representation, which is a compression of the data, and so that's the way it achieves its performance. But I think the fact that you've got a battery of accuracy tests that follow it, I think that's also proof of the pudding. That even though it is a lossy compression, you don't remember word for word what it was in that context window, in that attention window, but you've got the semantic representation, you've got the intent of that of that window. I wonder if that helps.
Yeah, my primary concern is that I think with the first version of GPT, there's already a compression, which is lossy compression, is trying to fill up words, come up with it, creates this hallucination. Now we are going towards some type of a derivative concept. Like now we are taking the token and compressing it and feeding it to another. So that's why I'm asking all these questions, like how do we even evaluate these things? Because already we are struggling to evaluate the first generation. How do you evaluate the second generation?
Yeah, look, for us, our use of LLMs is actually just for converting our query into a prompt, and then after that we use RAG, and then once we've got the sort of top few representative chunks from RAG, we then use the LLM to formulate the answer. So I think we're less concerned about not less concerned, but we're less prone to hallucinations, and so getting that LLM to run locally, we're not relying on the LLM for its general knowledge, and so the opportunity for it's not playing that sort of key role as it is in, for instance, ChatGPT. Okay. But I think there's these questions, Balaji. I think we need to feed into Daryle's research. But well done, Daryle. I think this is a great step forward. Thanks so much for your research effort. Okay, Debbie, get us back on track.
All right. Well, we were in member voices, and you were saying we want to hear from new voices, but we also want to hear from some veteran voices. So if we've got new voices, please raise your hand. Let's hear from you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, why you are here, how you got here, and because it would be nice to hear from you. Otherwise, Reza will call you.
Look, we got some shining lights from the music industry. We got John Lanak, who's head of music at Yahoo. John, perhaps you could say a few words. Sorry that I'm going to drop you in at the deep end. And we've also got Ted Cohen. Maybe we can hear. And Ted's not shy to talk. I know that.
So this is your chance to show off if you know how to sing.
Oh, okay. No, John.
Well, if John isn't talking, I'll jump in. Hi, everybody.
Ted, I love when Ted talks. So TED Talk.
I tried to Saul Werman, who started TED Talk. I said to him one day, "You stole my name." I met Saul when he started TED Talks. It was amazing how that had grown. I'm ending up teaching a course at University of Tulsa on music and AI and entertainment industry. They ran out of people to pick as a professor, so I'm doing it. So if you want to do something with the University of Tulsa with the
we do, yeah. Thanks so much.
I'll connect that. I did a session yesterday. Some of you know Victor Harwood, Digital Hollywood, which yesterday was my 30th anniversary of doing panels for Victor, and it was literally a really smart woman named Imir. I have it here somewhere, but I won't pull it up. No, wait, I got to get her name here. Hang on, I want to do it properly. Her name is Imir, and she's a film composer, and she was talking about that an AI can write a film score in 2 hours, and it takes her 2 months. So is that fair? And we get into, when it gets into, is that fair? It's a really tough discussion, because then we're out on the playground. We're not talking on an academic level. We're talking on yeah, but the AI can do it in 2 hours, and it takes me 2 months, and that's not fair. So I don't know on a very, on a more gut level how we deal with the resistance that we're running into on some of the implementation of things that actually are helpful.
Right.
Ted needs to come to the idea exchange, the hackathon, because that actually is a great topic.
Well, it's straight after this. It's the after party.
Oh, the after party. Oh, okay.
After a weekly meeting. We've got some new names. We've got, oh yeah. Okay. Well, Drea, you could also speak up. We got Patricia Bedard has not spoken, I don't think.
I got a quick Ted question.
I definitely agree with what Steve Vitka just said.
Okay. You got a quick question?
Yeah, Mike. Hey, Ted. It's been a moment. I love what you just brought up as an example. I was just watching a marathon session on the music composed for James Bond, everything from the earlier days to the last one. And the reason I bring it up is there is a lot of information shared about what makes this theme and all these things really work when it comes to composing. And I know that you have a music film background yourself. Do you get a sense from the conversation we're in that AI is actually crafting this kind of complex, complementary storytelling? I mean, has it gotten down that road where it could create a compelling James Bond theme that not only is an opening theme, but works with the film itself, as an example?
Well, it's funny. I brought up Hans Zimmer yesterday as an example, who just did the film score for the last James Bond movie. And Hans Zimmer very publicly, it's acknowledged that he has a team of composers that work for him that write in his style and have studied how he puts together, you know, cues and underscore. And I was arguing, is that, I mean, you say that we shouldn't be studying how songs are composed, you know, and then use that to create new compositions. That's being done every day in the real world at production libraries such as APM at Universal and Killer Tracks. Those are all based on using input of existing material to create, you know, commercial music that could be used where you didn't have to hire Paul Simon. You wrote a song that sort of sounded like Sounds of Silence. And so, I mean, it gets down to, if we're going to be on the playground, it gets down to get used to it. It's going to be part of it. There's a commercial that came out from Volvo. I don't know if everybody saw it, but it took one day to do. I mean, I can pull it up and show it for a moment. This Volvo commercial is amazing. And the whole thing was put together in one day. And it's beautiful and it's frightening that I'm sure that there are some, you know, commercial directors that are freaking out. I mean, if you want to see it, I'll pull it up for a moment.
Yeah, I get it. I'd love to see it if everybody else would, but I kind of get the rabbit hole because every musician as an art form trains off of what came before. And if you can now go deeper into the rabbit hole of what that training looks like, I can see where the output can be just like, okay, I can be Bill Glass, Stevie Wonder, Hans Zimmer. Like, yeah, that line is pretty much blurred.
You know, if we go back to, you know, the band America, if anybody remembers A Horse with No Name, that there was an argument at the time that the group was a hit because they basically said Crosby, Stills and Nash aren't doing an album currently. So we're going to do an album that sounds like Crosby, Stills and Nash. And they basically started their career off of filling a gap in musical taste.
I'm happy to move this conversation to the after party. Let's I just
want to show this really quick. Sure. This was done in one day.
I just want to say I saw it because I drive a Volvo, so yes.
Okay.
Okay, let me go back over here and let me hit. Oh, wait, where'd it go? Sorry. There we go. No, wait, no. I had it 10 seconds. Where is it fighting me here? Oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. Full screen. This was shot. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. This was done in 24 hours.
Volvo for life.
So Ted, I'd ask, is that looked like it was sort of a hybrid between AI and, you know, live shot B-roll versus 100% AI generated. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. They took some existing footage, but put the whole thing together in 24 hours.
Greenwashing. I like that one.
Yeah. I have a friend who was the location manager, did the bus for Swordfish over LA. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
We've got a few hands raised, Greg. But we'd like to hear from some new voices before we wrap. Greg?
So quick question, and then I'll introduce myself since this is my first Friday meeting. Was the audio done using AI for that commercial? And now I'll introduce myself. My name is Greg Spector. I'm a delivery process professional and a consultant. And the reason I joined AI is I have a deep interest in it and want to be a part of where it goes.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Greg.
Welcome.
Patricia, you're there. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's my first Friday meeting as well. In fact, I just submitted the, the interest form, wanting to be a volunteer with Kwaai. I love the mission. I'm very impressed with everything that I'm hearing at the meeting today. So, I'm a software engineer. I've worn a multitude of hats, from hands-on back-end developer to founding CTO. So if I can help in any way, I would love to contribute to the mission.
Fantastic. We could use your help. Thank you so much. Okay. This is great. And maybe contacting Sam Johnston and seeing if you could participate in the operating system, and that could be really cool. Excellent. Well, look, we're coming to the sort of last few minutes of meeting number 50. This is it's just wonderful to see that in the summer holidays, when people are, a lot of people are off on vacation, we've still got a good turnout at the call. Ruth, your hand's up.
My hand is up. I think I'd just like to take a minute to praise Reza. This is quite a milestone. You started, as you say, can't play golf. So what else were you going to do after leaving Real Networks? And I think this is a great testament to you, to look at the people that are engaged and how far you've come in almost a year, but 50 meetings. You haven't missed one, I don't think. I've missed several, but well done.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Now that I know he can't play golf, I can't wait to take him onto the course.
Excellent. Well, I'm blushing not as much as Lumi is blushing, and I really appreciate everyone. I appreciate you all. I mean, this is a community. This is a group of people that feel the same sort of angst that AI is heading in an unsafe direction, and rather than just being passive about it and wringing our hands and maybe writing a blog post or two, we're actually doing something about it. And I think that's important. We're in the best position to do something about it. We are technologists. We are AI critical thinkers, not the sort of uncritical cheerleaders of AI. I think we recognize there's something that the industry is in need of, an altruistic intervention. And this is it. You are the intervention. There's no cavalry coming. This is it. This is us. And what we need to do is form alliances with other like-minded organizations and grow Kwaai to become a credible counterweight to the monopolizing forces. And we will do that. Look, there's history in this. Linux did that when the monopolizing forces were prevailing over the server operating system business. Now Linux is the dominant operating system, and the industry is healthier for it. And so that is the sort of crazy vision that we have of how we can make a change. We can do this, we're active participants in it. There's an after party there called the Idea Exchange, where we riff and hack on ideas that came up in today's meeting, and we look forward to seeing you there. I'm going to hop from this call and look forward to.
Link is in the chat. I've added it 3 different times, so check the chat. The link is there.
Okay, thanks everybody for joining. Happy 50th. There we go. I feel young. Bye.
Oh, to be 50.